What up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It has been a while, but the NBA season is back. It's a new year. 2020 is officially thrown into the whole ass trash can. And now we're going to talk some hoops, because this is going to be one of the weirdest NBA seasons ever. So while I talk about today's topic, I have some NBA Street going on in the background. As you can see, picked the game back up towards the end of this year and decided to restart the game mode that I did have on my channel earlier last year, which were the NBA Street Volume 2 playthroughs. So I decided to restart that and play through the NBA Challenge mode and play through a few others. Definitely going to have more video game backdrops as I talk hoops as well, along with the player breakdowns and team breakdowns and season stuff, and the videos you've seen with a bunch of video clips and stuff like that you have seen earlier on this channel. Those will still be there. So while you're enjoying this nostalgic classic of a game, let's go into today's topic. We're going to talk about 3 NBA players that have, so far, again, it's really early into the season, but it's exciting nonetheless to see that these guys have taken another jump in their respective games. But we're going to talk about 3 players that I have noticed have the makings of making another leap this year. First, we're going to go in Boston, and no, we're not going to talk about Jason Tatum, who is already in my rankings a tier 1 or a tier 1.5 franchise player, a top 15 player in the league. We're going to his running wingmate, Jaylen Brown, who has once again seemingly taken another leap as an offensive player. He has upped his defensive production so far to start the year. We don't need to talk about Boston and their prospects as a team, especially with Kemba Walker out, but I do want to talk about what should have Celtics fans excited for the future. And as a Sixer fan, I hate to, pump up why Celtics fans should be happy, but if you're just on the outside looking in and you love hoops and you love seeing players get better, Jaylen Brown has been spectacular so far to start this year. There are some unsustainable elements to his offensive start, in my opinion, that I think he could actually repurpose and still continue his production, so we'll get into that. Jaylen Brown this year is averaging 26.9 points per game, 4.6 rebounds per game, and 3.1 assists per game, but he is shooting at a really hot 57.7% from the field. He's shooting a blistering 43% from 3 on just over 5 attempts per game, shooting 71% from the free throw line. Hasn't really upped his free throw attempts yet. I imagine as the season goes on, the sample will be more concrete and more easier to, take in and break down and get a concrete answer on. But either way, this all comes out to a really, really elite 65.4 true shooting percentage. Now, what are some of the elements we have seen so far from Jaylen Brown's game? Well, let's break it down. If you look at cleaning the glass, Jaylen Brown is shooting only 34% of his shot attempts at the rim, which is a career low so far, but it is still really good. Where his shot diet has changed is where the percentage of his shot attempts are coming in the mid-range. So per cleaning the glass, Jaylen Brown is taking a career-high 40% of his shot attempts from all areas of the mid-range, and he is shooting a blistering and unsustainable 59% from mid-range. So he's not only taking a career high of his shot attempts at mid-range, he is also shooting an unsustainable career high at 59%. His shots at the rim, though, the percentage he shoots at the rim is by far his best at 73%. I imagine as the season goes on and he realizes that the mid-range number he is shooting at is unsustainable, well, he won't recognize the number itself, but I'm sure in the flow of the game in the season, he'll realize that he just needs to keep attacking the rim, because he's attacking the rim at a career low rate, although it's still a high number, but he's shooting a career high in field goal percentage at the rim, and his effective field goal percentage is 64.6 per cleaning the glass. He has just been awesome everywhere, and You remember a few years ago, NBA Twitter and the NBA internet, as well as myself, we had a little bit of fun poking and prodding at the Celtics fan base and their front office because Danny Ainge just couldn't bring himself to trade Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum or any of their young pieces for a potential Anthony Davis trade, a Paul George trade when he was available, even a Jimmy Butler trade, and the Celtics were mocked for just standing pat. While a lot of their draft picks haven't panned out from the collection of assets they just had stemming from the Brooklyn Nets trade in the 2014 year, it only matters if you hit on stars. And they got a potential budding superstar in Jason Tatum, and they have another potential star in Jaylen Brown. I don't know if he has the ceiling of Jason Tatum, but Jaylen Brown is evolving into an awesome scoring wing who is also a really good defender. On ball, off ball, he needs to get better at, but on that end, he is absolutely a plus defender, and he has elite physical tools. He's huge, but if there's one thing that I have noticed with Jaylen Brown over the years, and I have watched a lot of Celtics games as well, because of course you guys know who my favorite team is, the Sixers. Jaylen Brown has definitely improved his handle. He has improved finishing through contact and finishing better at the rim. And of course, his off the dribble three, which was one of the knocks on him in college, was one, his handle. His hands might be too small to develop his handle and have a proper shot. He has expelled both of those knocks that he had pre-draft. And he's turned into an awesome player. And if you look at it now, the Celtics did right by standing pat and letting these two dynamic wings develop. Going to Indianapolis and the Indiana Pacers, Domantas Sabonis is another player that is looking like he is primed to make another leap. Sabonis made the All-Star team last year. Ever since he's gone to Indiana, he has improved every year production-wise. Now the Pacers' new head coach, who they poached from the Toronto Raptors over the summer, Nate Bjorken, is running way more of the offense through Sabonis, and it has become Domantas Sabonis' team. It's almost like it's like a Diet Coke version of how the Nuggets use Nikola Jokic. They have Sabonis up on the high post. They have him near the free throw line. They have him bring the ball up sometimes. He's running dribble handoffs with all the guards that Pacers have now, and they don't even have TJ Warren yet. It used to be Victor Oladipo's team, but you look at it now, it is absolutely Domantas Sabonis' team. So Domantas Sabonis right now is averaging 20.6 points per game, 11 rebounds per game on nearly 7 assists per game, shooting 56.7% from the field, 52% from three, albeit on low attempts, and head coach Nate Bjorken wants Sabonis to take more threes this year. He's taken the most three-point attempts he has ever taken in the season so far since his rookie year in Oklahoma City. He's shooting 52.9% from three, which is obviously unsustainable, but it is encouraging that Sabonis is willing to expand his offensive game. He's taking a career high in free throw attempts. His free throw rate is also a career high at .38, which is also considering that he just bullies dudes and puts dudes under the basket with his size and physicality. You can see why he is getting to the line more often. It all comes out to a nice, cool, and efficient 63.6 true shooting percentage. And he's, like I was mentioning, he's cutting out his shot diet. He is taking a career low 26% of his shots from mid-range. And if you look at it, ever since he started his career in Indiana, every year after that, he has taken less and less of his shots from the mid-range. It has been more allocated to threes. This year, he is taking 16% of his shots from three-point range, which is the highest it's been, again, since his rookie year in Oklahoma City. Sabonis has evolved into I think he's firmly placed himself in the top 20. He's leading the Pacers to a 5-2 record, despite everything that happened in the offseason with the coaching change and maybe Victor Oladipo wanting out. And also, the Pacers offense, while they're still trying to figure out some stuff, but the offensive rating is still 11th with 111 points per 100 possessions. 111.7 points per 100 possessions. So Sabonis has been the fulcrum of that. He has been awesome, and the Pacers have a franchise big potentially, especially if he continues to keep improving, which based on the trajectory of his career so far is looking very likely. Another likely franchise player on our hands is Brandon Ingram, who made huge strides last year. Another first-time All-Star, has seemed to have taken another leap again. And now I want to preface this by saying that he had a really bad shooting game against the Pacers over the weekend on Sunday. They had a really weird loss where they just choked it away, but Ingram shot 12 of 31, so the percentages have been dragged down quite a bit, but it's going to stabilize as the season goes on. But right now, Brandon Ingram is averaging 25 points per game, 6.4 rebounds per game, and 5.7 assists per game, shooting 40% from three per cleaning the glass, which takes out all heaves and end of quarter, half-court shots. He's shooting 44.8% from the field. Again, that he was dragged down because of that Pacers game. Shooting 82% from the line. It's a 56.7% true shooting percentage. Again, prefaced with the fact that he shot really badly in the Pelicans-Pacers game. But he has made another leap as a playmaker. And that was the last thing. Well, that was the last thing aside from his three-point shot and his off-the-dribble three. That was the last step. Those were the last steps to unlock his game. And if he figured that out, which he has, and has proven over more than a season now, he's going to be an all-star franchise player because he definitely has the offensive moves, the offensive skill. His handle is tighter. He's definitely using the length to his advantage too when he's making these passes. Ingram needs to get back to attacking the basket more because the mid-range numbers that he is putting up isn't going to be sustainable, I don't think. He's shooting 44% from mid-range. His frequency, however, is he's taking nearly 50% of his shots from mid-range, and that's too much for me. He's an improved three-point shooter. If he could just turn some of those into threes again, the efficiency will stabilize as the season goes on. But he is only taking 18% of his shots at the rim, and I think with his length and his handle, and he's gotten bigger over the years, he can take a little bit more contact. I would like to see Brandon Ingram attack the rim more, but he signed that extension over the summer, that big contract extension, and it's worth it because Ingram, Zion, and Lonzo Ball, I still believe the Pelicans should be looking into bringing him back after this summer. The Pelicans have a bright future, and I had some questions about the Pelicans and the moves they made, but it's all moot if Brandon Ingram continues to play like this. He's shooting also a career high, I should mention, 65% at the rim, so I wish this goes into why I wish he would, attack the basket more. But Brandon Ingram's been fantastic. He has taken another leap, and with him and Jaylen Brown, they are definitely, from what their pre-draft scouting report was and what the knocks on their games were, they have Jaylen Brown and Brandon Ingram from that 2016 draft class are completely different offensive players than what they were as a rookie, which is more than I could say about another certain draft pick that was picked number one in that draft class who happens to play for my favorite team.